Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about the GTM element or the click element, whatever you want to call it. If you're here on this video, it's probably because you've been trying to use this to fire a tag, using it as a trigger, or maybe to collect some sort of variable, and you're struggling with it, especially with a trigger. Most people are trying to use a contain statement or an equal statement or a regex statement, and no matter what you do, it doesn't work. And that's correct. It does not work. It's not you. It is because what you're seeing in the click element in the data layer is actually just a visual representation of what's actually there. So that's not what its real structure is. So we really need to understand what the structure is of that click element in order to use it. So I'm into my Google Tag Manager here. I'm going to go into preview mode. And we're going to show you what that element actually looks like. So connect. Go onto my site. We're going to use my contact form. We're just going to scroll down. And we're going to click Send Message. So let's go into Tag Assistant and let's see, when I click that, what was in the variables. You can see in the click element variable, you've got this big long string. And many of you, if you were trying this for the first time, are probably trying to say, contains like WP forms submit 162. And no matter what you do, it doesn't work. And you're right, that doesn't work. And the regex statement's not going to work either. And again, the reason for this is this isn't what it really looks like. This is just a way that GTM is visualizing it for you. So what we have to do is really see what does it really look like. So we've hit the send message. Let us go into the developer tools. So more tools, developer tools. We're going to go to console, and at the mark, we're going to type data. That's camel case, so it's lowercase, data, uppercase, L in layer. Click on this. You can see there's 5 instances of it, and if we hit return, it lights up so we can drill down. Here's that click where we had the WP form submit. So we're going to expand this out. So this, you can see, is the element. That same as the click element. You can see here, this is the GTM class, WP forms. We go back into Tag Assistant. You'll see that matches. Click ID, WP form submit 162. WP form submit 162. They match. What doesn't match, obviously, is this click element. This is this button here. And if you see it here, that doesn't look anything the same. That's because this is a multi-dimensional array. So if we open this up, we start to see everything that's in here. So it's a ton of stuff. And it doesn't look anything like this. But once you know that this is what's in here, now we can start to use it. So you can see there's lots of stuff in here that you could create variables off of. I'm going to show you that second. First, I'm going to show you how to use this as a trigger, because my guess is you probably hear it because you've been struggling to get it to work as a trigger, and it doesn't. So let's show you how to do that. So if we click over to, we're still in this developer tools. Let's click over to elements. Let's click on this element. All right, so we've got all this. We don't want all that. We just want this. All right, so let's find this particular one. So let's inspect it. Okay. So now I've inspected it. You can see it's this button here. Its name is WP Submit. Its ID is this. Its class is WP Form Submit. So we've got an ID and we've got a class. So if you want to use the information from the click element in order to fire a trigger, you need to go back into GTM. Back into the tags. Let's say we want to do the send message. Let's see, GA4, send message. I'm going to put the word narrow after it. Now I'll show you why I'm putting that in a minute. Let's go into Google Analytics, GA4 event, put in my measurement ID, event name, we're going to do the same thing, send message narrow. Hi, so now we're going to build that trigger. So we're going to add a trigger. And as promised, it is going to use the CSS selector. So let's say this is going to be a click, send message, arrow. So it's going to be all elements, but just some clicks. Instead of using click class, we're going to use that click element. Now, in the click element, nothing but CSS selector works. So you use equals, contains, start with, end with. None of that's going to do anything. Matches regex, not going to do anything. Only options you have is matches CSS selector or does not match CSS selector. So let's pick the matches. And now we said over here that we've got this class and we've got this ID. So let's go after this class first, WP forms -submit. So class is represented by a dot. Dot submit. So let's just double check if that's right. WP forms -submit. Yep. So that will get us to fire when this click element has the class of WP forms -submit. Nice and simple. If you'd rather use the ID, you can do that. So instead of a dot, which represents class, ID is pound. The ID for this is WP forms submit 162. So let's use that. WP forms -162. We're going to save it. That tag is done. Save. But before we test it, I want to show you something else. So I named this narrow. Let's do something else called GA4 send message Y. We're going to do another GA4 event, measurement ID, and this is going to be send message underscore Y. And now we're going to build a different trigger for that. So what is this trigger? Why am I calling one narrow, one wide? So again, this element here is this box. But what if you go up a level? So you can see that this is the sublevel of this. What is this? This is this whole rectangle here. So what if you wanted to measure when somebody clicked in that whole rectangle and not just in a send message area? So on my site, that's kind of useless. Who's going to click outside the send message? But if you have a site where it's a button in a wrapper or something like that, you probably want to get the wider one because people might click in the wrapper area, not necessarily directly where it says send a message or whatever your click text is. So how do we do that? So we got the class again. So we're just going to do the same kind of trigger, it's CSS selector, but we're going to use the class of WP forms -submit -container. So we're going to call this send message. Click. Send message Y. All elements, some clicks. Going to go after that click element. And we can't use contains. It's got to be CSS selector or does not match CSS selector. The class, which is the dot. Let's see, it's WP forms -submit -container. Let's double check because I get this wrong all the time. Form submit container. Got it. Okay, so we're going to hit save. But before I do that, you may have figured out there's going to be a problem. That CSS selector is not going to match WP form submit container if they actually click where that send message is. This is just going to collect it, hit save, in the wider area where there's no send message. So we really haven't done what we want. We really want to get that wide area and the send message at the same time, so both boxes. So both this layer and this sublayer as well. So here's how to do that. Save this up. I'm going to make one more tag. It's going to be GA4 send message wide and narrow. Put in my measurement ID again. Event name, send, message, wide, narrow. And then we're going to hit our trigger. We're going to say, click, send message, wide, narrow. So again, all elements, some clicks. Got to use that click element again. CSS selector. And now we're going to say again this wide one again, this WP forms submit, because we want to get the wide one. Dot WP forms dash submit dash container. Like I said, this is only get the wide. It's not going to get that narrow place because that CSS selector isn't class of WP forms submit container. It's another class. We're going to put a comma. We're going to put dot WP forms again, exact way we have it for the outside one. Container and a space and then an asterisk. So an asterisk is a wildcard. And so what this says is you want it for WP forms container. So that's what the left one's doing. The right one's saying, or we want it if it's a subdomain or a subset of WP forms submit container class. And so this is a subset of this WP forms container. So now that we've put both in, both the main and then the subset of it, so any subset of that, that's what the wildcard means, this will fire no matter where we click in that area. So let's hit save. And let's close this out. Let's save the tag. We're going to preview again. Let's see if these behave the way we think they're going to behave. Contact. Send message. Tag assistant too. So here's our click. And now we've got, when we clicked, we got the narrow fired and the wide narrow fired, but not the wide. And that makes sense. If we then click on the wide area, which I would guess is over here somewhere, click on it. Send message wide clicked, wide and narrow clicked, but the narrow didn't click. So it's working exactly the way we want it to work. So this wide and narrow is set up to do the wide and any subset of the wide. This wide it only fires when it's the wide, and the narrow only fires when you're clicking on the narrow. And this is where you can really start using that click element effectively. If you have areas that people are clicking that might be wider than the button itself, you can come in here and use these CSS selector based off the click element to properly measure those. That's working great. So for many of you, I'm sure that's what you came here to learn. But hang on for 1 second, because I just want to show you about the variables too. Because if you remember, when we looked at this area, when we did the developer tools, well, you know, it'll work from this way too. Hit inspect. Go into elements, go to console, type data layer, again, camel case, hit return to show all 9 of them. Okay, here's our WP submit, it's number 7. Let's go back and let's look at this element. There's lots of cool variables we can get out of here. Just for today, I'm going to use this client height notch. So let's go back in here. And we have here this GTM element. So remember, we got to it from console. And you can see the class list is 1. It's a nice array. And this client height. So we're going to use those two as an example. So let's do client height first. That's a simple number. So we're going to add as a data layer variable called client height. And it is gtmm dot element dot client height. And it also is camel case. Let's make sure we got that all right. GTM element. That's right. let's hit save. We're going to do one other one. I want to show you that you can collect arrays too. If you're not familiar with arrays, this is kind of a fun thing to do. TLV class list. Variable GTM.element.class list. Check that's right. GTM element class list. Got it. I'm going to hit save. We're going to close out of these. We're going to preview one more time. Contacts. So let's hit that send message and let's see what we have for the variables. So under click, variables, we have the DLV client height 45, class list, it's an array, so it's in the square brackets, WP forms. And there's only one in here, but let's see if we can get it to be bigger than that. So we're going to click in this wide open area. Let's click. Let's see what we've got. So the client height is 695. But now you can see this class list is an array. It's element widget dash wrap, element, elementor, element populated. So you can see it's got two values in the array separated by the comma. And you can use these arrays, well, the Facebook takes them, GA4 takes them. I have a whole lesson on arrays coming out soon. So, you're welcome to look into our YouTube channel, and you should see an array video as well there, hopefully the next week or so. Anyway, so hopefully this has helped. So if you were struggling before trying to get that click element to fire a trigger, it should now work. Remember, you can only use CSS Selector, or it does not match CSS Selector. Those are the only two you can use. And you've got a whole new set of variables that you didn't have access to before, now that you understand how to use the click element. Anyway, my name again is Rick Child. I'm the owner and founder of the Ashford Group LLC, a analytics agency and a digital marketing agency as well. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.